Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 10 of By the Numbers. We thank you for joining us tonight on Thursday night. Usually a Tuesday night show, but we had to pivot to Thursday this week. Some unforeseen circumstances, some illnesses going around and whatnot, but we're all back in the studio ready to go. I'm Kevin Emmons, your host, alongside my co host, Chris Baker, Roderick Boyd, producing the show, doing all the magic behind the scenes. Chris, we got a lot to cover tonight. The high school football playoffs are underway in the state of New Jersey for public high schools. Actually, some games going on right now that we'll talk about throughout the show. And we also want to incorporate some more sports tonight. Usually, we just been talking football, obviously, with it being football season, but we got some other special stuff lined up tonight. So, Chris, how was your week? How have you been, bro?
Pretty good. Just been working, going to the gym, getting all these numbers and stuff ready for both our show and Mark's show. Getting ready for playoff football and nice Halloween football too. Gonna be some probably cold, wet football. Obviously tonight's been raining a lot. Tomorrow, hopefully it stays dry, but I think we might be seeing a lot of running tomorrow.
You mentioning, a lot of football and in the rain and whatnot. It's raining right now, and I know there's some games going on right now. So, could you just let our viewers know some of the scores that we've had come in so far, based on what we've been seeing on Twitter and whatnot? We have a couple games that have been final. One team has already advanced in a Group Four bracket, and we have a couple other games in progress right now. So I know Chris has a few scores lined up that he could take us through right now to update our fans.
Yeah, so Pleasantville was up 23-14 late in the fourth quarter on Delsey. I'm assuming that might be final by now. That was about almost a half hour ago that update came up with like 6 minutes left in the game. I know obviously the last couple minutes of a football game or sporting event are usually the longest couple minutes. Glassboro was up 14 nothing on Audubon in the Group 1 bracket. That was in the third quarter. Cedar Creek is up 21 nothing on Triton at halftime. Kingsway is up 23-14. We actually had that game on right now as we're filming this. They just went up about 48 seconds left. Kingsway's up 23-14. And Shawnee over Pensauken. That is the final game Kevin mentioned. That was a 28-12 victory for Shawnee. So at the time of this recording, we already have a team that advanced and is waiting for next week.
Yeah, I know Thursday night games is becoming more common in South Jersey. I haven't seen a lot of Thursday night playoff games in previous years, but I mean, I guess it works out for some teams. A team like Shawnee, they get to advance and prepare for next week, and I'm sure they'll have a little bit of extra rest now. I don't know when their next game will be, but you know, possibly could be playing on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, a Saturday night. So
Yeah,
we'll
because
see.
the winner plays the winner of Winslow and Cumberland.
So yeah, we'll see.
Shawnee will play the winner
Yeah,
of Winslow and Cumberland.
exactly. So we'll see. So moving on, I mean, it's by the numbers. We always like to start off with some key numbers, some interesting numbers that Chris comes across through his research. Just take us through some of those numbers that you came across in your research this past week.
So I got a big one here. It's kind of shocking, but not really. Especially with one of the other numbers I'm going to throw out in a second. So we had 31 quarterbacks in South Jersey throw for over 1,000 yards, but only one threw for over 2,000. That was Winslow's Jalen Parker. I do have the full list of all 31 quarterbacks that threw for over 1,000 yards. Want me to run through them real quick?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could do it real quick. Breeze through it. Let's give these
So,
guys some recognition.
this is not in order of yards. It's just whoever I found through, edge.com max preps. It's not ranked. It's just whoever threw it, I threw it on the list. So, Glassboro's Jack O'Connell, Kingsway's David Orovets, St. Joe's Hamilton's Anthony Salamone, Zane Forrest from Oakcrest, Nico Jimenez from Woodbury, Cole Aquino from Washington Township, Johnny Franchini from Mainland, Eric Beach from Bishop Eustace, Jalen Parker from Winslow, as I already mentioned before, Robbie O'Connor from Millville, Frenchman Bethea from Cedar Creek, Marvin Burrows from Atlantic City, Todd Costable from Holy Spirit, Anthony Tirico from Seneca, which we'll get to him in a second as well, Van Lefakis from Haddonfield, Dalton Felinas from Paula Six, Desmond Thomas from Salem, Nick Carreri from Eastern, Vinny Sacca from Delran, Brent Willulak from Northern Burlington, um, Josh Greenberg from Cherry Hill East, Jake Mannion from Triton, Mason Shanzy from Burlington City, Dante Howell from Bridgeton, Malachi McKenzie from Paulsboro, John Antrilli from Collingswood, Gary Battaglini from Sterling, Dane Collin from Pittman, Davion Ross Ways from Cooper Norcross Academy, Shane Riley from Holy Cross, and Jordan Dozier from Wildwood. That was all 31 quarterbacks threw for over 1,000 yards this season.
Give this guy a round of applause. That's some good research right there. That's incredible though that there's 31 guys who were able to accomplish that, and obviously it's high school. It's not like the NFL where it's regular season stats and postseason stats. So these guys can continue to add to those totals if they're continuing to play. And there's a couple names on that list who we expect to be playing in the final weekend this season. So we'll see what those numbers could eventually accumulate to. Well, great research there, Chris. What else do you got from interesting numbers that you came across this week?
So we had 7 rushers run for over 1,000 yards, 6 running backs, and a quarterback. The quarterback was the aforementioned Anthony Tirico, threw for 1,000 yards and also ran for 1,000 yards. And the 6 running backs were Aiden Binns, who was South Jersey's rushing leader this year with 1,499 yards from Burlington Township. And we had Dunbar from Cedar Creek, Dante Davis from Burlington City, Terrence Goffney from Collingswood, Terrence Barnes from Riverside, and Axel Bailey from Overbrook all ran for 1,000 yards. And I will add as well, with all those quarterbacks throwing for 1,000 yards, not a single 1,000 yard receiver this year.
That's interesting. I guess there's a lot of guys you got to distribute the ball to and whatnot. I mean, also if you think about it though, 1,000 yards passing is different. We see guys have 1,000 yards receiving in excuse me the pros in college, but they also got a quarterback throwing for 3,000, 4,000 yards. So scale's a little bit different. But I'm sure by the end of the season there'll be a couple names that reach that 1,000 yard plateau because I've been following along and I've seen there's some guys in the 800s, 900s, whatnot. And as I said, some of these teams still might be able to play another 4 or 5 games, and some teams will at least be guaranteed another game and have the opportunity to play 2 games, maybe 3. So we'll see what happens there. Any other interesting numbers you came across that week, or was that
Actually, I do want to add on as well to the rushers. I did see that Cole Anderson was at 900 or in the 900s, so he had over 100 tonight. Actually, had 200 tonight, so he also is now 1,000 yard rusher as well for Shawnee. So another number we got is 8 South Jersey teams got a top seed in each bracket. 4 of them got the second seed. So the top seeds in Group 1 are Burlington City and Glassboro. Paulsboro got the second seed in South Jersey Group 1. The 2 top seeds in Group 2 are Camden and Haddonfield. West Effort got the 2 seed in South Jersey, in the South Jersey bracket, I should say. And then in the Group 3 bracket, Burlington Township and Cedar Creek both got the 1 and 2 seeds in South Jersey Group 3. In Group 4, Winslow and Millville are both in the same South Jersey bracket. They are in Group 4. That's the 1 and 2 in that bracket. Then in Group 5, Washington Township got the number 1 overall seed in Group 5, and Atlantic City got the number 2 overall seed, which makes them the number 1 seed in South Jersey Group 5.
So prior to that, you mentioned Cole Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, going over the 1,000 yard mark. Cole is also a tremendous baseball player. His father, Brian Anderson, head coach at Shawnee, a program that's had a lot of success over the years, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of ironic that he was able to reach that feat tonight because this wasn't even planned, but this naturally leads into what we're about to go into next. We want to switch gears and talk about baseball right now, and you guys will see why very shortly. And Cole Anderson, as I mentioned, a tremendous football player and baseball player at Shawnee High School in Medford. He's also a part of the South Jersey Young Guns baseball program. And South Jersey Young Guns baseball program is one of the top programs in South Jersey when it comes to travel baseball. And by the numbers, let's just go through some information on this successful travel baseball program that exists in South Jersey. So, per perfect game, the organization based in Ariel, New Jersey currently features 7 teams. In terms of program history, the Young Guns have had 202 college commitments, 16 drafted players, and 2 MLB debuted players. Barnegat graduate Jason Groom and Haddon Heights product Caden Bodine were the organization's only 2 players to be selected in the first round of the MLB draft per perfect game. Other notable draftees include Anthony Solometto, who was at Bishop Eustis, Buddy Kennedy, who's in the MLB, played in the MLB this season and was a star at Millville High School, and David Hageman, who played at Cedar Creek and Holy Spirit. My brother actually had to face him in the playoffs, and it wasn't fun for him and his teammates. That was a one-hitter. That was a quick game. They were in and out of there. It was a good game for Cedar Creek, not so much for Pemberton. The South Jersey Young Guns' most recent draft selection was Eastern Regional's Logan Dawson. Now, speaking of the Vikings of Voorhees, the most talked about South Jersey Young Guns player right now has to be Eastern's Davis Schneider. Schneider homered on the first pitch of Game 5 of the World Series last night. Very first pitch to help the Toronto Blue Jays to a 6-1 win over the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in California. And now the Blue Jays lead the series 3-2, and they're one win away from their first World Series title since 1993. And I also must mention, and this is a great nugget that I read this morning from South Jersey legendary writer Tom McGurk. Davis Schneider was a part of history because him and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. were the first two players to ever have back to back home runs to lead off a World Series game. So South Jersey is a part of MLB World Series history right there. To continue about Davis Schneider, few more numbers here on by the numbers. The South Jersey Young Guns and Eastern Regional alum was drafted in the 28th round of the 2017 MLB June Amateur Draft by the Toronto Blue Jays. Homegrown star, guy who played for the team that drafted him, and he made his major league debut on August 4th, 2023 against the Boston Red Sox, another game where he actually had a home run in. So this season, he batted 234 with 11 home runs and 31 runs batted in the regular season. And over the past two regular seasons, Schneider has hit 24 home runs and has driven in 77 runs. So I don't know. Do we have our guest on the line? Do we have him on the line? So we have a special guest for you tonight. Joining us tonight is his former coach, Pat Fisher. Pat Fisher has coached the South Jersey Young Guns organization for the past 20 years. He's coached numerous players, a lot of those players that we mentioned that are in MLB farm systems right now and competing in the MLB. Fisher is currently an assistant coach at Rutgers Camden and serves as a head coach in the South Jersey Young Guns organization, as I said, and has some few other stops in there. I want to give a special shout out to my best friend, Zach Joseph, who's watching. He said the Young Guns, when he played for them, used to call him Animal. I don't know what that means. Knowing this guy, it could mean anything. I'm just going to, God only knows, but I guess it got to be something with baseball. I want to give him a shout out for helping me get in contact with Pat Fisher, as well as your good friend, Rutgers Camden head coach, Ryan Kulik, who was able to get us in contact with Fisher and be able to make this interview possible. So, Pat, we thank you for joining us tonight. Do we got you on the line?
Yes, sir. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. Thanks for joining us. First off, I just want to, as I said, thank you for joining us and want you to kind of take our viewers through your baseball journey. I know you played at Lenape High School back in the day, a two-sport star in basketball and baseball at Lenape, and then played basketball at Susquehanna University, if I'm not mistaken. And then from there, I know you had a lot of coaching stops from the high school ranks to the collegiate ranks, and obviously being a part of the South Jersey Young Guns organization. So just take our viewers through your baseball journey pretty much from the start to where it's at right now.
Well, it's been a crazy journey. I wouldn't change it for anything. I really just started out as a little league coach with my son, and it just kind of grew in trying to do the right thing and surrounding the good ball players with talent beyond just where we lived, and it just kind of like grew and took off. This was 26 years ago, and I've run into guys, like the Animal, Zach Joseph from Pemberton, who was a dominant ball player back in the day. He got the name Animal because he wasn't afraid of anything and just tore after it. And he was on the field at the same time with Davis, Buddy Kennedy. Colin Palusa still, working hard in the minor leagues. Jay Groom, another guy that I think he's going to be ready to go. So, just doing all this journey, just learning the game, and really my big thing is just trying to create the right environment for kids to thrive.
Absolutely. And you mentioning obviously Davis Schneider being one of those players you coached, and obviously huge moment last night, hitting the home run on the first pitch of
Incredible.
Game 5 of the World Series to spark, the 6-1 win for the Toronto Blue Jays. I know his dad was sitting in the crowd and recorded it, and that was awesome to see the videos on Twitter and Instagram. And Chris, I'm sure you probably seen it. MLB crediting his dad with the video footage and whatnot, and just being able to capture that moment. Coaching Davis, how long did you coach him for? And when did you realize this guy is a special talent and he has the potential to do something special and go far in baseball?
I ran into Davis when he was 8 years old. He came to one of my summer camps, and he was too young really to be at the camp. It was mainly like 10, 11, and 12-year-old guys. But I mean, that day, you just couldn't believe bat the ball that this kid was 8 years old. And I remember talking to his mom and his dad. I'm like, your son is can really hit. It's hard to believe he's only 8. And that's kind of how it started, And Davis played up a little bit, like a year, because we didn't really have anything organized for kids that young. And I mean, his work ethic, his quiet approach to the game, he's gotten to where he is today. To have a moment like last night, that I think is like a chapter in MLB history that everybody's going to remember.
Absolutely. And what would you say is the most memorable team you coached? I mean, whether it be just in terms of how good that specific team was when those kids were however old they were and what they were able to accomplish in terms of tournaments and games they've won, or even just in terms of a group that, it's like, oh, so many guys on this team went on to play baseball beyond high school and whatnot. Because I know the animal Zach always tells me that, oh, I was part of the greatest 12U baseball team of all time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't let our fans know and our viewers know that, Zach is a very good Sunday softball league player now. I think I have more hits than him this week. So, I mean, he's still doing well for himself as well. But I know he mentioned, being part of teams that were very special. And as we've mentioned, a lot of guys have gone on to do special things playing baseball. So which group is the most memorable for you, or is there, several groups?
Yeah, I mean, I sidestepped that question. The arguments between the kids and the alumni of the Young Guns, they start, arguing with one another. I mean, my first team, we had like 8 kids who were all South Jersey. Danny Gravatt, he went away with the Pirates, played at Virginia. He had 2 home runs in the College World Series. Danny Williams was on that team. Matty Mosseri, my son Jordan, was on that team. Jimmy Birmingham, he got drafted. He played at Coastal Carolina. Billy Rao was on that team. He was drafted first round with the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, that team, it's kind of hard to, not have them in the conversation. Davis's team was outstanding. I mean, 5 guys got drafted off that team. That was a special group, to say the least. Um, and just recently, I had a team with, Michael McGinley, Tommy Popoff, Bruce Parker, Gavin McCaffrey. There's a lot of really good ball players on there that were like, there's probably like 6, 7 kids that were all South Jersey. James Vlasteris, Ben Hudson's at West Virginia. I mean, I could go on and on. There's just been so many great teams, but those 3 jump out, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned a lot of great names, and it's so awesome to see, names that, were from back in the day and they're playing in the MLB now. And even
Yeah.
some of the names you just mentioned. I know Chris, a big baseball guy here. This is your guy for South Jersey baseball. But even I don't get to go out and cover as many baseball games as I used to in my work schedule, but a lot of those names I mentioned there. So Chris, you got anything for Coach Fisher?
Yeah, coach. So you've been coaching travel ball, you said about 26 years, correct?
Yeah, this is my 26th year.
So what do you think has been the biggest, I guess, difference over the years? I know recruiting's been become a lot different. How kids go about their routines, like the workouts, the extracurriculars, the pitching, the hitting. What do you think's been the biggest change so far that you've seen in that, the better part of the 30 years you've been doing it?
Whew. That's a great question. How long do I have to answer that? I think now everything, the knowledge of the game is readily available for anybody. You can get YouTube videos. These indoor facilities are around now that are able to bring, systems and time to play and train that didn't exist years and years ago. Uh, right, wrong, or indifferent, kids are playing. They're probably playing too many games. I think if you're playing over 75 games in an entire year, spring and summer and fall, I think you're getting into a danger zone there. And I think you can see that with all the arm injuries and surgeries going on. So it's, man, it's a complicated thing, but he's South Jersey now. It's not uncommon for guys to get drafted. We had Logan Dawson, who played Young Guns for a little bit out of Eastern High School. That kid played 3 sports. He ended up getting drafted, and he's been around for the Phillies. Caden Bodine was a Haddon Heights guy, went to Coastal. He got drafted. And, you know, those things probably wouldn't happen if travel ball wasn't as intense and as it is now. So there's good and bad, and you got to be careful how you approach it.
Yeah. Um. Now, obviously, you mentioned the I guess the impromptu games limit that you kind of you kind of had there in mind. I know an article came out I think about a year or two ago about the rising Tommy John surgeries happening in high
Yes.
school, especially in South Jersey. Um, it wasn't really a hit piece. It just kind of mentioned some of the more popular facilities in the area. As a you're a pitching coach at Rutgers Canada, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
No, no, I'm not.
No.
No, no, that's Ryan Kulik. That's his specialty.
Okay.
But I mean, Ryan is like one of the best pitching guys. Not just in South Jersey. He just does an incredible job, and I've borrowed from his blueprint on how pitchers should be treated and handled during the season.
Yeah. So what months of the year do you feel like certain parts of the training regimen should happen? I know there's a big argument about, you know, a lot of coaches might want their players to, not if they're not going, full 100% with the pitching year round, they should be at least tossing the ball, at least getting a feel for just having the baseball in your hand, being able to keep your mechanics clean. But there's also some coaches that don't want the players touching a baseball or any equipment, a bat, getting hacks in anything like that. They don't want them touching the equipment for at least a couple of months, just that way they kind of get their bodies and their minds reset. Do you feel that that formula may work for a majority of players, or is that something that might be subject to change throughout? However many different players might go about their regimens.
There's an exception for every rule. When it comes to throwing a baseball, when your season's over, I don't think you should throw a baseball for 60 days. You want to get in the weight room and start like I would call it prehabbing. When somebody gets injured, you rehab. But if you're getting for the season, you got to get in the weight room. You got to get your core, your scaps, your legs. Everything's got to get ready for the demands of a long season. So I would not throw a baseball for 60 days. I think in about another week or so, November, kids should start lifting to get ready. And then I think the high school kids should probably start throwing a baseball mid-December. And then just the progressions of flat grounds, and then then you're ready to throw pens, and then March 9th, I believe, is the first day of high school practices that you should be able to you know be at 30 pitches, and then you just build up to that. The real problem is high school season's over, and now these kids are trying to get out there, the PBR, the perfect game, the pro select, and they're trying to throw the ball as hard as they can to impress them with that radar gun, but they weren't ready for that long of a season, and that's where things get crazy, and we've got to figure out and do a better job for the pitchers for sure, and that's a tough one.
That's some great insight right there. Well, Coach, we thank you for joining us, taking the time out of your night to join us on this Thursday night. I know it's a weeknight and whatnot, and weather's not great out there, but we appreciate the
Uh,
insight that you were able to just give us there and kind of take us through the stuff you have experienced as a coach and whatnot. And hopefully, we have some young baseball players who are watching and we're able to learn from that. And of course, we thank you for taking us through the history of the South Jersey Young Guns and all the tremendous players you've been able to coach over the years. And clearly you've made an impact and helped them out. So we're thankful that we could have you on here and, give you that recognition and allow you to talk about that because obviously you and your staff and the guys you've worked with have done a tremendous job and as well as the players doing a tremendous job for, setting goals and being able to accomplish those goals. So we thank you so much for joining us.
yeah, it was a pleasure, and thanks for having me on, guys. Be safe and take care.
So thank you very much,
Thank you
Coach.
very much, Coach.
Bye.
Yeah, great guest there. Like I said, I know it's football season. We got some football playoffs to cover. We've been doing football all year. It's only our 10th episode ever. We've done a lot of football coverage, but it's nice to kind of switch gears right now. We had to get Coach Fisher on, being that he coached David Schneider, and he just had a huge play in the World Series last night, made MLB history, and now they're one game away from winning the World Series. And the series is going back to Toronto, so they're in the driver's seat now. I don't want to jinx them. I don't want to jinx David Schneider, knock on wood. But they're in the driver's seat now. They control their own destiny. So a lot of great insight from Coach and Chris. I know you're a baseball guy, so that probably was a good conversation for you.
Yeah, especially him coaching for that long. I mean, the game, especially the travel ball game, not even just the past 5 to 10 years, like that long, almost 30 years. A lot's changed, and I'm kind of, I was glad to be able to pick his brain and see what he thought, was probably the biggest differences from the time jumps of almost different eras, essentially, of travel baseball.
Absolutely. So moving forward now, we're going to switch gears and hop into football because, as I mentioned, the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association's playoffs for public schools are already underway. We had a few games in action night, game that was already finalized that we mentioned earlier in the show. Shawnee defeats Pennsauken, and now we have some other games coming up Friday and Saturday. So let's just start going through the brackets. Start right from the top. Or do we got another? We got our other guests ready on already? Well, there we go. Even better. We're gonna hop right into our next guest. Tyler Drob, head coach of Cherry Hill East, has led Cherry Hill East to a tremendous season. They have a 9-0 record. They're hosting a playoff game tomorrow against Toms River North, a game that we were going to mention later on, but now we get to talk about it right now. Cherry Hill East has won 22 out of their last 24 games the past 2 seasons, and this is a team, Chris, that we mentioned having some struggles in the past, 10 to 15 years, a couple seasons where there was some winless seasons, not just having, a losing record, seasons where they simply weren't winning games, and they've been able to turn the tide. So I'm looking forward to having Coach on tonight, and I think Rick said he's here, so let's bring him on. What's up, Coach? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you guys. Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thank you,
we
guys.
appreciate you having you on. As we said, it's a Thursday night. I know it's a school night, a weeknight. You guys got a game tomorrow, and it's a big one. It's one a lot of people in South Jersey are talking about. The first thing I just want to talk about, though, is as I mentioned, you guys are 9-0 this season. Last year, you were 9-1. I know you've won 22 out of the last 24 games. And like we just said, this was a program, within the past 10 to 15 years, there were some struggles. What changed? How were you guys able to turn it around over there on Crescent Road? I mean, I know a lot of coaches will credit culture and stuff like that. What worked? What was the formula? How were you guys able to, make a turnaround like this so quick?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Like it feels quick with the results. I would say, and it was just a lot of time. A lot of years. I know I got to give credit to Coach Daly, who I'm still good friends with. Just getting the numbers back up and from where the program was, getting some excitement back in the program, and then when I was able to take over, I really wanted to take that next step and get full buy-in. I always say you need the whole community. You really do. All the good coaches I talk to, the guys who are, mentors and different things that, in coaching that I might talk to. I mean, you need the community. You need the parents to care. You need the, youth football to improve. You need all the players to care, your administration, and the coaches. So, it started there, getting everybody really to be serious about football. And then my first 2 years, we were 6-4 and 5-5, and we were building, and we hadn't been over 500 in a long time. And then we really just committed, I'd say, to the off season. You just got to credit it to that. And, the weight room and the hard work we put in throughout the off season. That's what lets you last, especially in, playing good teams. You got to put in that work in the off season and just continue to get better and, stronger and bigger and all that. So that's the stuff you can't coach that, right? Speed and size and everything. And you can improve in that way. So I think that's a way we put in a lot of work in the off season.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned it takes a whole community, because I remember I was at the game last year when you guys hosted your first ever night game against Triton, and just
Right.
the atmosphere with, the fans. And I remember the mascot was out there, and you got the fire truck with the American flag hanging from the ladder. Just everything about it just defined high school football. And you hit the nail on the head with that one. And it does take a community to be successful, to be able to experience a turnaround like that. And just to be a sustainable winning program in any sport, it definitely takes community. So that's a great point you mentioned. And I know tomorrow you guys have a huge one. You guys are hosting Toms River North. I know a lot of people are saying this isn't the Toms River North team we've seen before, but I know that you still can't count them out. They play in a tough division, the Shore Conference, and they're the only team to win a Group 5 state championship ever, because when the state introduced public state championships 3 years ago, Toms River North has been the top public school, and they've won it all 3 years. So now you guys have the opportunity tomorrow to host them, potentially be the first team to knock them off in the playoffs over the past couple of years. How excited are you guys for this opportunity, and what are you guys doing to prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously really excited for the opportunity, and when you hit the playoffs, the records don't matter, and they especially don't matter in this game, they're a tremendous opponent and tremendous team and program. And watching them on film, the last thing you'll think about is their record. They're a great team playing a lot of, really good football teams. And we're excited for the opportunity. We're really glad it's at home. Last year we had to travel to Southern for a playoff game, and this is the first home game ever on East soil because the last home game we played was 1991. We used to play at West. So this is the first home game ever at East. We're not trying to put that pressure on the kids. We want them to understand, it's a great opportunity. It's a great moment that they've earned. That's really the big thing. We want them to that's something we wanted to work for, and we wanted to earn it as a coaching staff. I'd be remiss if I don't mention those guys doing a tremendous job. Our staff does, and I've really had the same staff the last 4 years. So, one of our goals as we kept building as coaches program was to try and get this home playoff game. Sometimes it's tough, with all the strength of schedule and those things. And last year we didn't get it when we were undefeated, and we had to go on the road and play a really good Southern team who's in the playoffs again. And now this year, we're glad that it's home. It's a really good opponent. We're prepared to play, as good as we can possibly play because they're great, man, and they'll be tough. And they're, from what I know and what I hear, they're always prepared. And what we see on film, offense, defense, they're well coached and everything. A lot of stuff that we try to do, truthfully, as a staff, we feel like we see a lot of what they do, and we try to be a disciplined team and tough, and we try to run the football, and we try to do those things, and we see that in Toms River. So we know it's going to be a really tough game tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. We might have to reserve a spot for you on the staff, pulling out a nugget like that. First ever game on cheerleading soil. That's Chris. You got to do a little bit better next week. You got to find these stats. No, I wouldn't have been able to find that either. That's like Chuck Langerman kind of stuff there. But we appreciate that nugget right there. That's some great information and a great breakdown on your opponent. Chris, you got anything for Coach? I know Cherry Hill East is a program you've seen a lot over the past couple of years.
Yeah, Coach, I know obviously the Toms River North is Toms River North. How important is it that the community aspect, which you mentioned earlier, how important is it that you get the community out there and pack the stands and just try and create as much home field advantage as you can? Like, what would it mean to the kids, and what would it mean for the programs to see the support out there tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think, like you said, you were Kevin, you were out there for the first home game last year, under the lights at least, against Triton. So we've had 2 years of this now, playing under the lights, playing at night. And I know our team, and they want the kids to come out. And I know it's on Halloween and everything, but we wanted to play on Friday night because that's what we've always wanted. When we didn't have it all those years, playing on Saturday mornings. I expect a lot of people to be there. Whether it's I've heard from alumni because I am an East alum. I've heard from people that just want to come out and support the team. So, or it's alumni or staff or family, friends, and then obviously the whole student body. We hope as many of them come out as possible. We need them. I think it gives our kids energy, and they feed off it. We want to keep winning at home. We've obviously had 2 great regular seasons the last 2 years. So since we've been playing in the stadium, we haven't lost at home, right, in these last 2 seasons. So we try and keep that going tomorrow night, and we need all the support we can get.
And I know a lot of guys on that team last year were, tremendous contributors who went on to, they graduated high school. I should say, Denzel Lee, Isaiah Donaldson, if I'm not mistaken, Zach Salisbury, them guys. But guys have just filled those roles, stepped in, and you guys haven't missed a beat. How have these guys, taken to that challenge of having to, fill in these spots that weren't available last year, or just having to, acclimate themselves to a different role and, maybe with some more responsibility and being able to find the same success that this team was able to find last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just saying that I've answered this question a couple times this year, but the first thing I think of is when we lost that playoff game to Township last year. You just with the whole coaching staff, and it was a tough loss for us in the second round after we were having a great season. The coaches were all just really positive. Those guys, just like, we're going to be good, we're going to be all right. Like, the culture's great, like what we've done and what you've done. They were saying to me, like, we're going to be good, and they were just really confident in that. We have a great staff, and everyone's back from last year. So that continuity as a staff is huge. First of all. I know a lot of times I talk about the players and that, but that's been huge also. Player-wise, I adopted like the phrase, the new standard this year. And I think for our guys, they bought into that. Like, it doesn't really matter Players win games. We all know that, right? You need talent, but we have talent, right? In Cherry Hill, there's a lot of good athletes. So we lost them guys, and they were tremendous. We lost 41 out of 42 touchdowns. That's another nugget for you. The only touchdown we had last year was Ryan Moyer had one. He got a bunch of times last year. He almost scored, but Ryan only had one last year, and he's the only one coming back. So we found a way to replace those guys, and they've done a tremendous job this year. From our quarterback play with Josh Greenberg to our, the linemen, Ona Pela, Dom Canzano, Tony Vega, them three guys really leading the way. And then just other skill guys stepping up and doing a tremendous job. It's really been a whole group effort.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, you see it on full display. I mean, as we mentioned, you guys are 9-0. You're hosting a playoff game tomorrow, and everything's been clicking. Everything's been, rolling on all cylinders, and a tremendous, we deserve to tip the cap. We should tip the cap. Those guys deserve to be credited for the tremendous work they've done filling in. So I've seen Rick leaning up. Rick, you got something for Coach?
Yeah, real quick. I'm off camera. I'm not feeling all too well, Coach. I apologize.
Yeah, all good.
But just seeing your guys over the last couple years, and your defense this year, you guys are looking a lot stronger, a lot bigger. What has your off-season program been like for your program? How you changed that up? Because that's the first thing I noticed when I see you guys on the field. You got a lot bigger than some of the years before when you first got there.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, with a couple of the guys, some of it you can't coach. When we've been lucky to have really good players and good size, scholarship level guys. And you guys know to get scholarship offers in football, you need size a lot of times. So we do have a couple of those guys. For sure. And then in terms of the defense, like just Tom Cesare, our defense coordinator, 5 shutouts, I believe. If it was 6, he'll probably correct me on it. I think it was 5. Yeah, he's done a tremendous job just getting him to play physical and tough. Something we preach the same thing on both sides of the ball a lot. So just that aspect of it has been great. And then in the off-season training, just really being, committed, just holding guys accountable, making it enjoyable. You have to, man. If you're going to start workouts in December and January, it's got to be enjoyable, right? Nobody's going to last that long. We're going in November right now. So trying to find ways to celebrate them, whether it's players of the week, players of the month, hardest workers, me working out maybe with them or other coaches working out with them because, they love that. Just finding ways for us to, keep it enjoyable for them. And then just holding them accountable, showing up and not showing up. Like our junior class had to take a big step because you can't just have seniors. And the juniors had some months where it was like perfect attendance, just phenomenal, like commitment in the off season. So you can't just have 5-10 guys. So just that commitment multiple days a week. And I've seen these guys now for maybe 9-10 months in a row now. And they've just really been bought in and really worked hard together and have fun doing it. And we think at times that we're like, you guys are loose, like at times, and we're like, but that's who you are. So you can be loose, right? Keep having fun with it because it's a grind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my other question is, you guys cracked the top 10 rankings. Yeah. I believe we were one of the first ones to break that too, the rankings when we talked about it. But how are you guys handling all of the newfound spotlight, especially when it comes with social media and things like that with the team, and not allowing it to infiltrate in a bad way?
Yeah. I think for us, the biggest thing is we still see enough of like the people that don't believe, and I understand some of it, but people talking about the schedule and different things, and but we know who we are, and that's who we tell them, our guys, be confident, and because we played a lot of really good football teams, like Bridgeton we played last week should be in the playoffs. I don't know how they're not, but it's a whole different story. They're a really good football team, and Triton was a really good football team, and Eastern and a lot of other teams in our conference. So that's one of the things, because they see that some of that outside stuff, if you're using social media, people are going to say, well, why are they ranked and different things. So we keep them, we want to keep them level headed because they can go either way, right? You see the positive stuff or you see the negative stuff and you start doubting. So we just want to keep, you guys see what the film is, you see what you're doing. Now we got to get better because to continue to improve each week. So we really try to take it week to week and continue to try and go 1-0, right? It's cliche, but that's the stuff we do. We try to treat every opponent. Me and my defensive coordinator, we always say, like, we're preparing the same way no matter what. And that's what we tell the kids, like, you got to prepare the same way. I think they did a really good job with that this year. Didn't matter who it was. I think we practiced hard. We think we practiced really hard and, play really hard. So we try and get them to, buy in now every week and kind of stay in that same mindset. So it's been working.
Yeah. And I just got one other question before my voice goes out. If you had one word to pretty much describe the team this year that you have, what would that be, and what would the meaning behind that word mean for this group of kids that you have this year?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. Yeah, it's a really good question. Man, like I want to say like a standard now that we're trying to uphold, but truthfully, the first thing that came to mind was just physical. I think that's something. Last year we were a little more flashy. We had really, really, talented players that kind of carried the load with Denzel Lee, Isaiah Donaldson, and Jackson Bowman. This year, I feel like across the board we've been able to kind of play a physical brand of football on both sides of the field and on special teams and everything. So like that's the first thing I hear from coaches after we play. Like you guys really played physical, you played tough, and everything. So I think that translates. You guys know road, home, rain, sun. Now, if you play with that, brand of football, which we're gonna need that tomorrow night, you hope you'll be in the football game and get a chance to win.
And it's really ironic that he said physical, because that's my key to victory for them. We all know about Tom's River. We know about their history, how they like to play. They're going to come and try to be more physical than you. So if you can hold up to that, or, out physical them, you're 9 times out of 10, you'll be on the other side of that, the win column. You'll get that dub. So, Coach, we pulling for you and your team. Good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. I'm always seeing what you guys are doing, man. You do an awesome job for South Jersey football. Keep it going.
Hey, well, we appreciate that. And again, we appreciate you for joining the show and taking time out of your Thursday night to join us. And to follow what Rick said, we're wishing you guys luck. I tell the players and coaches that come on every week, we want to congratulate you on everything you guys have accomplished up until this point. But I know the job's not finished. So congratulations on what has been done, and good luck for what you guys are still hoping to achieve. So we thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, I love how he mentioned, talking about how they were able to build the program up, and he talks about community and the camaraderie of that, and families being involved and whatnot. And also when Rick was asking Coach about the off-season program and the weight room and stuff like that, and him mentioning how they do a player of the week, student of the week, just stuff to keep the players enthusiastic in the off-season and keep them engaged. I just think that's so important, and it sounds so simple, but it's not as simple as it seems. It takes a lot of that behind the scenes stuff to keep everyone engaged and keep kids wanting to come back and staying consistent and staying passionate. And a lot of people tend to think, they look at high school football in the region and just simply think X's and O's and talent and whatnot. And there's some games where it comes down to that. It comes down to, who has more dudes or who executes at the right time and whatnot. But when it comes to being a winning program, there's so much that goes into it. And I think Coach pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything that it takes to get to that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, Cherry Hill is a Group 5 school, Group 5 football. It seems like the key to victory there is the size and physicality. We see it, a lot of you guys mentioned before, like that Willingboro team. They had that size of like a Group 5 team from like that 2019 team, where it's like pretty much a team like that, they possibly could have competed in Group 5, like with that size, the physicality, the talent they had. And it's year in and year out where we see teams like Toms River North or Cherokee or teams that run the ball a lot and are physical. They're going to have the size up front to pair with, their bell cow backs.
Absolutely. So moving forward, let's jump into these brackets. We're going to take you guys through the Central and South Jersey public brackets. And We just had Cherry Hill East represented on the show. That's probably my favorite bracket. My bracket I'm looking forward to the most out of these brackets. We'll get to that. We'll go right down the list. Starting off with Central Jersey Group 1. We'll take you through the favorites and the match. I mean, we're not going to go through every single matchup. We'll mention who's in the group, but I don't want to, spend too much time going through, well, this team plays this team and whatnot, because we'll be here all night.
Yeah.
But starting off with Central Jersey Group 1, you would think the favorite has to be top seeded Burlington City. Burlington City only has one loss this year. Their one loss was to neighborhood rival Burlington Township, a Group 3 school, the number one seed in a Group 3 bracket, undefeated. Burlington City only lost that game 8-0. In other games, they handled their business. They played who was on their schedule. They put up 66 points against Palmyra. I know they scored 60 points against Pemberton early in the season. And I think their biggest threat would be Shore Regional, who has key wins over Matawan and Point Pleasant Beach, respectable losses to Red Bank Regional and Manasquan, two larger schools, but good programs, especially Manasquan. But I think you give Burlington City the edge, being that if seeds hold and it comes down to it, you know, tough place to have to go play. Wilbur Watts Intermediate School
Yeah.
right there with the traffic on 130. Teams are going to have to come and make a trip there. So I think that's the team to beat in that bracket.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. Same with the team that can give them the run for their money. Shore is always a very tough physical wing T team. Obviously, some teams in Group 1, the wing T isn't really as prevalent outside of the Diamond Division, really. In Group 1, Burlington City, I mean, we mentioned before, Mason Shanzy over 1,000 yards through the air. Dante Davis over 1,000 yards on the ground. I mean, they got their two guys right there who can kind of will them to the wins if they need them.
Absolutely. And then Riverside is another local team in that bracket. They're the 3 seed. New Egypt, another semi-local team, Ocean County program, who was in the Burlington County Scholastic League in most sports, well, all sports, excuse me. I mentioned that because West Jersey Football League is what football is. But then they moved to the Shore Conference, being an Ocean County school, but they're only minutes away from Burlington County. And some of the teams they used to play in the Burlington County Scholastic League are closer than a lot of the teams they're playing in the Shore Conference. So they get some South Jersey love there. And I think Manville and Asbury Park is a good first round game. Manville has a 9-0 record. And obviously, being a 4 seed, you look at some of their opponents. It's all part of that debate that's going on right now about strength of schedule and wins and losses. So a team like Manville, who they played who was on their schedule, they handled business. And those teams might have had no wins or one win, but now they have an opportunity to prove themselves. They get to host a playoff game, and we'll get to see who they really are. And it's an opportunity for go out there and prove who they are. So moving forward, the winner of Central Jersey Group 1 will play the winner of South Jersey Group 1, headlined by the defending Group 1 state champion, the favorite to win this bracket, and obviously the favorite to win the entire Group 1 in the state, Glassboro, 22 straight wins, 6 shutouts this season, pursuing their second straight sectional title and second straight state title. Some other South Jersey teams in this bracket being it's a South Jersey group, Paulsboro, Pennsville, Kip Cooper, Norcross Academy, Salem, Shalleck, Woodbury, and Audubon. Glassboro and Audubon was being played at the beginning of this recording. I know Glassboro was up 14-0. Chris, I think you would agree that they have to be the favorite here. I mean, there's not much to be said. I mean, Glassboro is a tremendous team. Timmy Breaker's doing a great job there. They have a lot of talent, a lot of guys who are going to be playing Division I football, Power 4 football, Power 5 as I always know it as, but they call it Power 4 now. So heavy favorite in Group 1.
Everyone in Group 1 is playing for second place behind Glassboro. I'm going to say that now. Everyone's playing for second place. Obviously, there's some teams that can give them a run for their money, but just what it is.
Hey, well, I know teams will be looking forward to the opportunity to play them. You get to play them in a sectional semifinal, a sectional championship, a state semifinal. You get to prove who you are and go out there. And at the end of the day, every team has an opportunity to win. So I know people will be up for the challenge, but Glassboro, they're the favorite in Group 1. Goes without
In
saying.
the state, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're the state champion. It's as simple as that. I mean, you got to beat the champion to beat a champion, and they've won 22 straight games. So I expect to see them playing the last weekend of the season. They're the favorite in South Jersey Group 1. So moving forward, we have Central Jersey Group 2, which the top seed is actually a South Jersey team, Camden Panthers. We have a couple South Jersey teams in this group, Bordentown. I think 2 names that stand out here, though, are Wall and Rumston Fairhaven, 2 programs that have been traditionally good at the shore. Even Point Pleasant Borough in this bracket isn't as good as they were a year or two ago. Not that they're not good, they're just not at that same level. But obviously, they've had some big wins this year, and they're going to be in the mix. And having to play Rumson Fairhaven in that first round, the favorite in this group, I'd say, is Camden, similar to Glassboro. I think Camden right now is the favorite for Group Two in the entire state. They'll definitely have some challengers, I should say. Bernard's up in North Jersey, and there's other challengers up there in North Jersey. But I'd say they're the favorite right now, just being that they've been able to handle business. And also, they're one of those teams we talk about, as I said, this time of year, strength of schedule and wins and losses. They play such a strong schedule for a Group Two school. I mean, they have wins over Rancocas Valley, Kingsway, lost a tough one to Shawnee, but we're in that game. And Shawnee is another good program who
Yeah.
just won a playoff game, an hour or two ago, even if it's been that long. So that schedule definitely benefits them. And obviously, they're just a talented team led by Rob Hinson, who's played in a lot of sectional championships. They have tons of talent on both sides of the ball. I think Rumson Fairhaven is probably their biggest threat. Wins over Point Pleasant Borough, Brick Memorial, both middle towns, both north and south. And their losses were to Red Bank Catholic and Toms River North, two traditional powers at the shore. And those teams I mentioned that they beat, Point Pleasant Borough, Brick Memorial, Middletown North, Middletown South, these are all teams that have qualified for the playoffs in their respective brackets. And some of those schools are playing in larger brackets. Brick Memorial, number one seed in a Group 4 bracket. I believe they're ranked in the state. So, I mean, Rumson Fairhaven's a traditional powerhouse. They won the state championship last year. I think that's Camden's biggest threat right now. And maybe we'll see that matchup down the road, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's almost like we talk about with Toms River North. Toms River North, Toms River North. Obviously, they don't have the Ford family bloodline still there right now that we know of. Don't want to jinx anyone in 2037, but right now, I mean, Rumson's been almost the standard. They've been to 3 straight Group 2 titles. Obviously, came up short in the first 2. Finally got over the hump last year, but Rumson Fairhaven's always going to be Rumson Fairhaven. They're always going to be one of the top teams in the shore, especially one of the smaller schools, if you want to call it that, because obviously they're a very big Group 2 school. But they're one of those teams where they're going to be qualifying for the playoffs year in and year out, pretty much in the Group 2 brackets.
Absolutely. And moving forward to South Jersey Group 2, we have an exclusive West Jersey Football League Continental Division matchup here. Right at the top seeded Haddonfield playing Willingboro. Haddonfield had their way with Willingboro the first time around, but Willingboro has been playing a lot better recently. So that makes for an interesting matchup. Lower Cape May hosts Gloucester, two more teams that played earlier this year. Something I mentioned yesterday during Mark Tribble's South Jersey Football Frenzy show is that's another one of those games that directs or correlates directly to the whole strength of schedule records thing that there's been a lot of debates about throughout the state. Gloucester's a 4-4 record. Lower Cape May has a 7-2 record. Gloucester went on the road earlier in the year, beat Lower Cape May 28-7, and now they're heading back to Lower Cape May. Yep. And Lower Cape May has an opportunity to earn some redemption. So that's definitely an interesting game. But one of those games that makes you think, it kind of fits into the criteria of everything that everyone's talking about right now. And you have Delran hosting Overbrook and West Defford hosting Camden Eastside. Another one of those games where people talk about, these two teams play, teams from different groups and whatnot. So it's really hard to gauge who's who in comparison when they're playing different opponents. But this is what makes the playoffs fun. Now we get to see who's the better team, who benefited from a strong schedule, who is better than their record indicated, who's as good as their record indicated. So that's what leads it to be so interesting. I'd say Haddonfield has to be the favorite here, just the way they've been playing lately. They've been rolling on all cylinders, winning a share of that division. And we know that the share was between them and Seneca, and they beat Seneca. So if it was, the NFL, they would be the division champion. But they've just been rolling on all cylinders the past couple of weeks. A well-coached program, a lot of veteran leadership on that team. But they have some threats there, with West Defford, with Delran, Gloucester, Lower Cape May, even Camden Eastside, as we mentioned. There's teams there that could pose a threat, but I think Haddonfield is definitely the team to be in that bracket.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I'd say obviously the top 2 biggest threats are, the cliche, the 2 other higher seeds, Delran and West Defford. But I mean, regardless, I'd say Haddonfield's the clear favorite, but in second place, it gets a little murky there of, who are they going to play in the sectional final? Could it be Delran? Could it be West Defford? Could it be Eastside? Could Overbrook, come up with a couple upsets there, clinch a spot in the sectional final. But I do think Haddonfield is most likely the clear and cut favorite for the sectional title there.
Before we move on to Group 3, I want to pull out a nugget for Group 2. Looking at the numbers today, there's the whole debate on should they change the format of the playoffs. I'm a big proponent of I just want to see a true state tournament. We're in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey is the 47th largest state in area. 47th largest. There's 50 states in America. It doesn't take long to travel around New Jersey. I know there's a lot of, complaints about travel and whatnot. There's bigger states with larger areas, traveling further distances, for regular season games. I think it could be done. That might be a conversation for another day. But I think they need to, reformat it a little bit so we're getting the best matchups in the state championship because that's what the state championship's about. So there, I've had conversation with people about some of the deficits we've seen in some of the state finals. But the interesting thing is about Group 2. The state championships for public schools were introduced in New Jersey in 2022. There's one group in New Jersey where every state championship has been determined by a single digit deficit. Matter of fact, it's been 4 points or less. The first ever Group 2 state championship determined by 4 points. The second Group 2 state championship determined by a point. The most recent one last year determined by 2 points. So Group 2's always a fun one to watch. I mean, we've had other groups where someone's won by 56 in the state championship, 35, 42, 24, 21, 27. So it's pretty interesting to see that we're talking about how, this Group 2, anything could happen. We have the rightful favorites, but there's competition there and guys who could pose a threat. And then obviously, as I said, we still have to consider the teams who are coming out the north. So Group 2 could be a fun year again in that group. So
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers don't lie. 4, 1, and 2 is impressive. As I said, considering some of these games have been lopsided, for every game to be determined by 4 points or less is definitely interesting. So moving forward to Group 3, we have Central Jersey Group 3. Homedale, the top seed. I think they're definitely the favorite in that group. I mean, they've had some impressive wins this season. I know they defeated Rumson Fairhaven, if I'm not mistaken. They had a win over Brick Memorial, Red Bank Catholic. Excuse me, they lost to Red Bank Catholic, but it was by a point. It was a very competitive
I think it was
game.
like a last-second play, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Overtime, I want to say, too, I think. I
And
could be wrong.
I remember going into that game, it was pretty much like this is 1 versus 2 in the shore. So, I mean, they've been doing a tremendous job this year. And what's really interesting to me about this bracket is you get a matchup. This is one of the good things about where the states sort of, made these mega groups and you kind of have teams intertwining and playing each other that haven't played each other. We see a lot of West Jersey Football League teams playing the Shore Conference and whatnot. And that's an example we have here. Hopewell Valley, a Mercer County team, a Colonial Valley Conference team in other sports, but a member of the West Jersey Football League in football playing Neptune, a team that's in the Shore Conference. These are 2 traditional Central Jersey teams. Like this is a matchup that could happen in, baseball or basketball and whatnot. But these 2 teams, they haven't seen each other. They don't have any mutual opponents. So it leads for an interesting matchup when you have 2 teams like that where you really can't gauge those 2 together. I mean, you could, if you've seen them play, if you watch them on film, you can make judgments from there. But in terms of just what most people, the fans, are seeing on the surface, it leads to an interesting matchup. And then you also have Seneca, another local team in this bracket, who is, playing great football right now. And then Somerville, a team that was expected to, beat, one of the last teams standing in Group 3 last year. They lost a lot to graduation, and then they're back this year, 8-1, the number 2 seed in this group. So definitely an interesting group there. I think, as I said, Homedale, the way they've been playing and the way they've been able to navigate that strong schedule in the Shore Conference, I think they're definitely the favorite there, but they definitely have some competition. And you have Ewing and Matawan in that group as well. So there's a few sleepers, but I think, Homedale is a team to beat. But Somerville, Seneca, Hopewell Valley, those teams aren't going to stand down.
Yeah, no. Obviously, Hopewell Valley, almost like an honorary South Jersey team, just because they're being in the West Jersey Football League. Obviously, as a South Jersey guy, you always want to see South Jersey come up with a win against the other conferences. So I guess Hopewell Valley can be an honorary South Jersey team this weekend. Obviously, them and Burlington Township have kind of, I guess, come into their own of like a rivalry essentially. Those contests have been fairly close. I think the largest margin recently was this past year, where I think it was 22 unanswered for Burlington Township. They came away with a win there in the second half. But obviously, Seneca, you can't count them out. Anthony Tirico, I mean, all world player for the Golden Eagles, and Somerville, where even media outlets up in their area were thinking this might be a team that might not qualify for the playoffs. If they do, they're going to be on the road. But here they are as a 2 seed in the Central Jersey Group 3 bracket.
Yeah, you mentioned Seneca and Anthony Tirico having a great year. Seneca has played in 3 straight sectional championships prior to this year. It's sort of a golden age for the Golden Eagles. I know that's the most success they've had in consecutive years out there in Tabernacle. And Anthony Tirico isn't the only standout junior on that team. They have a lot of juniors on that team who are contributors. So
Yeah.
they've been there before. They're hoping to be there again this year, playing in a sectional final. And they have a lot of guys to build with and try to get back there next year. So definitely an exciting time to be a player, a coach, a fan of Seneca football. Definitely a threat in that bracket to, try to, dethrone, or not necessarily dethrone, but prove that, hey, maybe Homedale or Somerville isn't the favorite. So that'll definitely be an interesting bracket.
I'm going to take Seneca in that bracket just because they're a South Jersey team.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. So
I'll always go for South Jersey. So
moving forward, this is arguably the most interesting bracket to me. I think I'll lean that Group 5 bracket I was talking about earlier, but this one is right there because for the most part, up until this point, it's kind of been, we all agree on who the favorites are. And I will give the state credit. Even though I think they should move to more of a traditional state tournament where everyone's playing everyone, the way they've been doing the playoff system the past couple of years has been a lot of complaints, and I think there's some flaws to it that they could work out. But I think there's also a lot of great things about it. And one of the great things is these past couple of years in these sectional brackets, we're seeing a lot of seeds hold, and we're seeing the top 2 teams, the top 2 true teams in those brackets, play each other. So we're getting a true sectional final feel, and we're finding out who the best teams are. So that's why I think a lot of our picks so far in terms of favorites have kind of been to chalk, and we've agreed. But this one, you might get some different answers based on who you talk to. South Jersey Group 3, you have top seed at Burlington Township with a 9-0 record, hosting Timber Creek, another South Jersey team. You have Cedar Creek, the 2 seed, hosting Triton. That was a game that was in action. They're up 21-0 last we've seen.
So it's 28-0.
Pleasantville and Delsey, another game that occurred tonight. Pleasantville advanced. Yep. And then Mainland and Ocean City, battle for the bridge, another battle for the bridge. They played earlier this year. So there's a lot of contenders in this bracket. Burlington Township 9-0 record, Cedar Creek 7-2 record. Pleasantville just defeated Delsey. They've been playing their best football throughout these recent weeks. Mainland Regional a sectional champion and state finalist last year, 5-4 record. Chris, I'm gonna throw this one to you. I'm gonna let you lead off with this one. Who's your favorite in this bracket?
My fault. I was checking. So the Cedar Creek and Triton game just went final. Cedar Creek came up with an advancing win, running clock win, 35-6 over Triton. Triton scored a late touchdown, but extra point was blocked, so the clock kept running. But honestly, I'd say the top 2 seeds are probably my favorites. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably go. I guess I'd go honestly Cedar Creek. Obviously, they had the slip up last week against Ocean City, but it seems like they're one of the teams that they're trying to find how they can play complete games each week, whether it's through the running game or through the air. Obviously, Bethea can run it, can sling it. You got Dunbar back there too. Camfield can run it. We can go through the air. They got the guys defensively. They've been holding up for the most part. I would go Cedar Creek, but that's more so just because I don't know when Bryce Carter's going to be back in the playoffs for Burlington Township.
Well, I thought you weren't going to give a straightforward answer there. I thought it was going to be the first show all over again with the division predictions. I was like, oh, no, he's going to try to cop out here, not give a straightforward answer. But, hey, it's a good answer. Cedar Creek is definitely a contender in this bracket. They have that championship pedigree, and they're good on both sides of the ball, and they're a well-coached program. I think my favorite would be Mainland Regional, the 4 seed, being that I'm a proponent for strength of schedule, and They play in the West Jersey Football League American Division. They lost to Millville by a point. They lost to St. Augustine 17-7. They lost to Atlantic City, another good team that we'll talk about a little bit further down the script early in the season. They had to play Winslow. They defeated Cherokee. They defeated Ocean City early in the year, a team that they're going to play in the first round. They're just so battle tested. And John Franchini is a guy we talked about on the show before. I know going into the year, he was on pace to break the record for most wins as a quarterback in South Jersey. We mentioned, Nate Cashy being a kicker who's holding records in South Jersey right now, and a team that has that championship pedigree. They've been there. They won a Group 4 state championship when they were in Group 4 last year, reaching a state final, playing in Group 3, and they're just a product of that tough schedule. They're well coached. I think that's who I would put as my favorite. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams because a lot of people, I should say, because people simply do look at their records. Not saying everyone does, but I think if they're able to win this first game and then have to go on the road and say perhaps play at Burlington Township, they could pose a threat to them. And I mean, it's such a great bracket because one of us could be right. We could both be wrong. There's so many good teams in this bracket with Burlington Township, Cedar Creek, Mainland Regional. And this is the one thing I love about the playoffs. None of these teams played each other in this season. Mainland, Burlington Township, Cedar Creek, Pleasantville. They haven't played each other yet. So we're going to find out who's the best of the best in this group. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. Moving on to, and also I want to mention, while I had this in my notes right here because I'm vouching for Mainland right now. I got to mention wins over Cherokee, Ocean City, and Delsea. And those losses I mentioned to St. Augustine and Millville were by a combined 11 points. So they're battle tested. They played some good teams, and they're going to be ready to go. Moving on to Central Jersey Group 4 now. We have Brick Memorial, the top seed. No true South Jersey teams in this bracket. We have Steiner, who's in Hamilton, which isn't too far. Hamilton West, which is obviously in Hamilton. Manalapan is the 2 seed. They pose a threat. Middletown North and Middletown South, two teams we mentioned earlier about Rumson, Fairhaven, being able to defeat them earlier in the year. It's a cool matchup being you got the two neighborhood rivals in the first round. I'd say Brick Memorial is the favorite here. They got wins over Wall, Point Pleasant Borough, Toms River North. They scored 55 points against that Homedale team we just talked about earlier. And then they beat Southern. And their quarterback has set records there, school records. And I got to give him a shout out. Jason Lajara. His older brother was actually teammates with my brother in college. They played basketball together at Ocean County College. Jason Lajara, the younger Lajara brother, doing a tremendous job at Brick Memorial. I know he just set a record for most touchdown passes in a single season at Brick Memorial. And as we mentioned earlier in the show with some of these guys in South Jersey who've thrown for 1,000 yards, there's still more games to be played. So he's able to build off this record if they're able to continue to win games. And they're the 1 seed and they're the team to be in that bracket. I'm sure you'd probably agree.
I didn't do much research on this bracket just because there's no South Jersey teams in there. But what I've seen from Brick Memorial, though, in general, I mean, they got to be the clear-cut one. They're one of the top public schools in the state, obviously. Being in the state rankings, you got to be one of the top public schools in the state. Middletown North, Middletown South, I know both those teams have posed fairly decent threats in recent years. Manalapan, I know, is usually very good, but I'm going to go with Brick Memorial here.
So moving forward to South Jersey Group 4, we have Winslow as the top seed. Obviously, a situation similar to Glassboro, the defending state champion. They're undefeated against South Jersey competition over the past 2 years. They're the team to beat. They're so talented. You have Millville as a 2 seed in this group. Millville's had a resurgence these past couple weeks. The team I know Mark Tribble talked about on his show last night. They struggled coming out the gates, 1-4 record, but another team playing a difficult schedule, losses to Rancocas Valley. I know they lost to Atlantic City. That one kind of slipped away from there late. They had an opportunity to win it. But lately they've been handling business. I know they scored 55 points or 56 points against Cherokee, a huge upset win over St. Augustine last week. So they're definitely a team who's been here before. They're the number 2 seed. I think they pose the biggest threat to Winslow in this bracket. And also Shawnee and Pennsauken, another game we were looking ahead to going into the week. Shawnee winning 28-12 last night. Excuse me, did they score another late touchdown after that? I know
28-12.
Okay, so 28-12 was the final. I was thinking of another game where someone scored late. But now Shawnee has an opportunity to possibly play Winslow in the second round. So that could be a good game. Shawnee, another team that's had success this season, but obviously Winslow Township, the clear-cut favorite. You have Cumberland in that group, Toms River East, Central Regional and Northern Burlington. I know that's a game you had circled on your calendar. There was some good numbers there. Definitely an interesting matchup in the first round, Shore Conference versus West Jersey Football League.
Northern Burlington, I believe in you guys. Greyhounds, you guys got a couple baseball players on there. You guys want a state championship. They know what a deep playoff run's looking like. Obviously, I know it's two different sports. But, I mean, regardless, a deep playoff run in any sport's a deep playoff run. They know how to win a state championship. They've won in baseball. They're 5-6 months out of winning that championship up in Hamilton. Or I forget where that's. They moved that game because of the rain. I mean, regardless, I mean, the clear-cut favorite for Group 4, Boomer, just committed to UNC. Go Heels. I got to go Winslow. I mean, it's almost the same situation as Group 1. They're just head and shoulders above everyone else. They showed it. They hung in there at the IMG. Obviously, the Bergen game didn't go didn't go how they want it, but I mean, they're just head and shoulders above everyone else in Group 4. But I do want to say I'm going to take Northern Burlington over Central in 6 versus 3 games. South Jersey over Shore. I love to see it, and Greyhounds get it done.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there on the Winslow Township bit. I mean, well coached program, so talented, and definitely congratulations to Boomer Helton committing to North Carolina after decommitting from Boston College. Chris has been waiting to pull this hat out. He came in, he showed me it. He's like, it's a snapback. I don't really like snapbacks. There used to be a time where snapbacks were cool. You used to attach them to your belt loop. You used to feel like the man, walking into the store, walking into school. There you go. So put the snapback on. He's been waiting to pull this thing out. So congratulations, Boomer Helton, on the commitment to North Carolina. Obviously getting to play for Bill Belichick, one of the most accomplished coaches in any level of football.
Chapel Bill ain't going nowhere. Stop saying he's going to get bought out. He ain't leaving.
I got a question. Are you a Belichick fan or NC and New England fan?
Well, I'm not a Belichick fan. She's a sweetener, but I'm a UNC fan and a Patriots fan. Yes,
I can vouch for him. As long as I've known Chris, he has been rooting for both of them.
I know. I'm just.
It's just Drake, May, and Belichick are just sweeteners to that deal.
I'm just messing with
That's
you.
all.
But you had me thinking though for a minute. I was like, he might be right, but now I was like, nah. As long as I've known Chris.
Here's a question.
I was a Sam Howell believer, and I think that Mac Brown was a little bit too old. Gene Chiswick messed everything. But that's a different.
Mac Brown kind of built that program. Now, gotta take it easy.
Recruiter.
I mean, the old Mac Brown. I remember him. Before
Texas,
that,
Texas, but I mean,
and
the
before
staff he brought in.
See, he don't know. He a young guy. He don't even know.
I was born in 2003.
So let me ask you this: who's the best defensive end out of North Carolina?
Billy Peppers. Oh, Lawrence Taylor. All right. What scheme are they running?
It don't matter, man. You got.
I'll go LT. It's LT.
Listen, LT was hitting the line of powder before the game.
Yeah, I mean, I heard some rumblings too. The Penn State decommitment, Julian Peterson, heard rumblings he might be going to UNC. All I gotta say is Chapel Bill's waiting. Let's do it. I love when South Jersey guys go to my teams, whether it's pros, college, you name it. The South Jersey guys there, I might get your jersey Boomer. As long as you don't get like a number 46 at wide receiver next year. I know Belichick's still weird with the numbers down there, but
that's it was legendary Hall of Famers with 47. Michael Irvin.
Yeah, but still though, I mean,
listen.
Look, we know how the kids are at the numbers nowadays. They got to have the single digit, or it's got to have aura or some kind of drip with it.
It's a little tougher when you go to college, though.
Yeah.
You got a lot of older guys. You got transfers. You got the NIL people. Paying money. So if you get a teen number, I guess that's considered a good one. You know what I mean, for a receiver. But yeah, congrats, Boomer. Congrats.
So moving forward, we got 2 more groups to breeze through very quickly. I know we're getting a little short on time here. And it's school night, like I said. Some teams got games tomorrow.
I got work tomorrow, but I got all night.
So moving forward to 2 of the largest groups in South Jersey. Well, Central Jersey Group 5 and South Jersey Group 5. Central Jersey Group 5, the top seed is Washington Township hosting Howell. Rancocas Valley will be hosting Hillsborough. Old Bridge hosting Freehold Township. And then Sayreville hosting Trenton Central. Favorite in this group, Washington Township, number 2 ranked public school in the state, number 2 ranked public school in South Jersey. We had their coach on a few weeks ago. We had one of their players on a few weeks ago. They've been handling business against a very challenging schedule. Obviously, a statement win over Kingsway a few weeks ago. The thing I'm looking forward to, though, in this bracket is the possibility of Sayreville and Old Bridge potentially playing in the second round. Now, Old Bridge is a team some people from South Jersey may have seen at the Battle at the Beach at Rowan University earlier this year when they defeated Cedar Creek 21-7. But these are two teams in Middlesex County. They don't go by this designation as, like I said, with some other teams earlier in the show, how we have the Colonial Valley Conference and whatnot, but that's not what they're considered in football. But these are two traditional Greater Middlesex Conference teams separated by 6 miles. Both teams are 8-1. They have a couple mutual opponents, but they haven't played each other this season. You'd expect that they would have played each other, being that they're two Group 5 teams from right down the road, but they haven't. So the possibility of those two playing in a second round is something I'm looking forward to. But Washington Township, the favorite in this group.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Frank Holmes today. He comes in my work. He said they're ready. They've been putting the work in. They just want to get out there and play. They're waiting for kickoff. It's been a long season. It's the part of the season they've been waiting for. I think the Minutemen have what it takes to be up at Rutgers or MetLife. Now all it is just about, they have the team on paper. Just got to put it out there on turf and grass.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go as far as saying it's not a crazy take. I think they're the favorite to win the Group 5 state championship. And I know that's their goal, and I know they've been taking it one game at a time, one practice at a time to try and achieve that goal. But even as I mentioned, the possibility of Sayreville and Old Bridge in the second round, we also had the possibility of Washington Township and Rancocas Valley in the second round, a game that was played a few weeks ago. I know they played last season. There's a little bit of history between those two teams. They're very familiar with each other. So if the seeds hold, this could be a very interesting sectional semifinals in Central Jersey Group 5. And then moving on to South Jersey Group 5, it works out perfectly because we just had it in order from Group 1 through Group 5. But in my opinion, we saved the best for last. This is the group I'm looking forward to the most. Atlantic City is the top seed hosting 8th seeded Cherokee. Now, I think that's the best game in the entire slate this week, possibly in the entire state. These are two teams that played each other earlier this year. Cherokee, who is the 8th seed, was winning 20-6 going into the fourth quarter. Atlantic City rallies for a 24-20 win. They played last year in the playoffs. Atlantic City won 25-15, and they played earlier in the regular season, another game that was determined by 3 points. So a lot of history of these two teams. The past 2 seasons, this is going to be the 4th time they met. Every game's been close. Atlantic City has had Cherokee's number. And I know Atlantic City, they're the top seed. We had one of their players on the show a couple weeks ago. We talked about how there's a true home field advantage there, playing on the Bay. It's a tough place to play. You can't really, simulate those experiences in practice and prepare for, the cold weather down there this time of year with the breeze coming off the Bay and whatnot. But as tough as Atlantic City is and them being the top seed, you probably look at that bracket when it first comes out like, wow, we earned the 1 seed and this is who we got to play. This is a tough draw. But I know they're ready for the challenge, and I expect it to be a great game. As I said, I think this is the best game in the region this weekend. Yeah. Then moving forward, you have Cherry Hill East. We just had their coach on, hosting Toms River North, a 9-0 team in the West Jersey Football League, against Toms River North team who doesn't have the same record as they've had the past couple years, but they're still a strong physical team. They have the experience. They're used to playing these games late in the season, whether it be on the road or at home. So they're definitely up for the challenge. You can't count them out against, even a very good Cherry Hill East team who's undefeated. Kingsway and Eastern, that game was completed earlier. Kingsway advanced with the win over Eastern at home. And then you have Southern and Williamstown, which is another interesting matchup because it goes into that theme we were talking about where you have an experienced Shore Conference team, and then you have, a West Jersey Football League team that may have played a strong schedule. They may have some youth. They have some good wins, some bad losses, so to speak. So that always leads to an interesting matchup because, like I said, with another matchup earlier, it was Hopewell Valley and Neptune, I believe I was talking about. Yeah, that's what it was. Where you can't really, get a gauge on it unless you've seen both teams play frequently or you've watched a lot of film. It's like, it's a collision course. These two teams are going to run into each other, and we're going to see what happens. But this is another group where it's interesting. Like it's sort of like that South Jersey Group 3 group where you could pick almost anybody to be the favorite. I think my pick for the favorite here would be Kingsway.
Yeah, I think Kings was a pretty good pick. I know obviously they've had some trouble closing games out. The Camden and Washington Township games come to mind. They probably let Eastern hang around a little bit more than they wanted to tonight, obviously, as we saw in that game. But I think Atlantic City, they just got too many home run guys. Tamir Rex, Kyrie Barksdale, Marvin Burrows slinging it around for a sophomore. I mean, they just got the guys they need. I mean, they don't. I can't say they don't need defense because obviously every team needs a defense, but they're a team that like they can get those them old Big 12 shootouts where there's like no defense. You get a 52-48 final score. That's kind of a team that Atlantic City, they're built to last in those offensive shootout games. Defensively, they have guys up front. Secondary is a little iffy here and there, but I think the offense kind of be the one leaned on to have the home run, the big play, the splash play, whatever you need late in the game. You need that 20-yard gain for 4th and 5. Move the chains, kill momentum for the other team. They got it, but I mean the other games. I mean, Cherry Hill East, very physical team. They could pose a threat if they get past Tom's River North. Williamstown, I know they're young, I know they're inexperienced. I know they got talent though. Against obviously a south or a southern team that's very experienced. I know I looked at the roster when I was doing stuff from Mark's show, and we saw them last year at Battle of the Beach. A lot of these names I recognize from calling those games. Calling the game against Highland last year. I didn't get to see them against Highland this year at Battle of the Beach, but I know that they're almost like last year's team, but in a more mature version of what they were last year. Honestly, I would take Atlantic City as a favorite, but to win some of their first round games, I mean, I'll take Cherry Hill East over Tom's River North, and I'll take Williamstown over Southern to pull off the upset. I mean, I know they're young, I know they're inexperienced, but this could be one of those Williamstown teams that might be a stepping stone towards possibly what we saw pre-COVID, right around COVID from Williamstown.
Yeah, it's a huge test for them, and it's win or lose, it's an experience they could learn from, being that they're going to have a lot of guys back. So definitely a winnable game for them, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think, like I said, the Kingsway is my favorite in that group. I think you mentioning them not closing out some of those games, but I think they showed that they could play with Camden, Washington Township. I mean, they had Washington Township on the ropes, and we're talking about how Washington Township is probably the favorite to win the Group 5 state championship. Now, obviously, that's credit to Washington Township for winning that game. Kingsway didn't win that game, and I know there's no such thing as moral loss in football, but they showed that they could hang around with some of the toughest teams. I know you mentioned they might have let Eastern hung around for a little bit, but I know we've also mentioned other shows, good football teams find ways to win. I know the weather wasn't the greatest tonight. You're hosting a playoff game on a short week on Thursday night. They're able to find a way to win late. So I think that experience that they have, and I think Colton Nick is a tremendous player. David Orovets. I mean, they've got a lot of guys who were on the team, last year, the year before, and whatnot. And I think their experience, and I think they're just a team to beat. I think they're all around the most complete team in that group. But this one makes the playoffs so fun. As I said, I think that's the most wide open group in South Jersey, Central Jersey. Anybody could win it. I mean, there's a couple
Yeah.
teams there that don't count out Tom's River North. As I mentioned, that they play in that shore conference with Red Bank Catholic, Rumson,
Yeah.
Fairhaven, Brick Memorial.
They're almost like they're in the shore of what we know of the West Jersey Football League American Division. That's
Yeah,
pretty much what it is.
They might not be that team that was going undefeated and winning Group 5 state championships, but they're still a very good team. So
Yeah, I mean, they're battle tested. It's what they want. Playing Red Bank, playing Rumson, playing down in the Catholic, all those teams. That's what gets you ready. You might have a 4-5 record, like you mentioned. One of those strength of schedule, one of those records things. They might arguably be one of the more tested teams, if not the most tested team in these region brackets.
absolutely. So, I mean, that pretty much wraps it up for us. We were able to go through every bracket. We had two great guests tonight. We had Pat Fisher, a assistant coach for Rutgers Camden Baseball, join us. He's been a part of the South Jersey Young Guns travel baseball organization for over 2 decades. Had stops at Camden Catholic and Paul VI, and I know he coached at Rowan prior to being part of Rutgers Camden. And then we had Tyler Drob, the head coach of Cherry Hill East football program, join us the undefeated Cougars hosting Toms River North, team we were just speaking about, tomorrow night. And another one of those games that a lot of people are considering probably the best game in the region. So definitely a game to check out. So we thank those guys for joining us, giving us a lot of great insight. We thank you guys for tuning in. For me, Chris, and Rick, we thank you for joining us. We're signing off and see you next time.
If you have offers from UNC, come to Chapel Bill. You know what the vibe is.